what I liked about network marketing, I could teach to get to in a very short period of time. I built a very, very large business. I was ranked number 63 in the world. I did it joyfully, and I did it by teaching people. I never loved money and used people. I used money and loved people. How can I bring value to their life? How can I give them education? Like, they come in with a dream and they want to make money in MLM, but what if they can leave with financial education?
So I want you to unpack what you're teaching people, because I think some people think, oh, it's great, but you have to make a bunch of money for you to be wealthy.
One of the advantages was this.
Okay, so I'm excited about this podcast. We're going to dive into a lot of what made you successful, the industries you came from, the leadership that you made, not just yourself successful, but how you made yourself successful wasn't just because you did everything. You actually built other leaders in your industry. So can you take me through, we're going to skip over the whole part of probably the diamond industry. Let's get into MLM and how you started getting into like the sales business and all that. So take me through the beginning of that, and what did day one look like, and how did you even start in that industry?
In network marketing?
Yeah.
Well, I've always said that I love the scripture that a man's gift makes room for him and will bring him before great men. And the reason why I know that and teach that is that's been my experience. The things that I'm naturally attracted to usually are tied to my gifting. I have a natural affection for those things. And for all people that are trying to figure out where they belong in life and what their gifting is, the first place to start is, where do you have a natural affection when it comes to your interests of a business or a business idea or your dream? Where is your dream? And so for me, people have always been my treasure. That's why ministry was such a big deal in my past, and going around the world and risking my life. But I also loved business. And guess what? My businesses are the ones that paid for me to go. I didn't have to ask for anyone to sow into my ministry for me to go. It was my entrepreneurial skills that provided the resources for me to go. And I approached that in a different way. It was never out of need. It was out of just full-blown desire. I'm there because I want to be. And that's the difference. I'm not there because I have to be. I'm there because I want to be. And so I spent 5 years learning from Kiyosaki at his book studies that he would offer in Scottsdale, Arizona. He would do these book studies 5 times a year. I did that for 5 years, and there's where I met a couple that were accelerating in network marketing. And I was a person that I want nothing to do with network marketing. I've been hunted down hundreds of times, at least it felt like hundreds of times. I didn't like the feeling of it. I didn't want to peddle product. I didn't want to beg people to do business with me, and I didn't like slow pay. I would rather do piecework, or I'd rather do a job or a project and get paid. I don't want to go slow. I want to go fast. And I don't mind working my tail off in order to make that happen. And I didn't see any of that, any of those things that I enjoyed within the vehicle of MLM. And I had 6 different pieces of real estate and a lot of land projects, subdividing it, selling it off. And I was looking to Kiyosaki to learn cash flow, and it was working. And I loved financial education, and it made me feel like I could predict the outcome when it came to real estate. And I learned that you make money when you buy, not when you sell. And that made a world of difference in the outcome. And so I fell in love with the art of cash flow and businesses, and the difference between small business ownership, which I had been my whole life, and big business owner, stewardship, which is systems. People can make money, but systems create wealth. And that was something I did not know, didn't understand. And I fell in love with that idea because that was the huge difference between the two. So I came across this couple, and they were doing hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in income in this space. And I was like, I don't know how that works. And they're like, just come out. I'm like, I'm still not doing it. You know, I was about to sell some of my real estate and buy my first apartment complex. And I was doing all this market research, and I bought this software that could quickly show me whether a large property could cash flow immediately so I can get my bid in there as quickly as possible. And I was ready. Like, I'm ready to go and take real estate to a whole different way commercially. And then I see that, and I'm still sour about MLM. And they're like, just do it. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it. They're like, no, just take some of the product. And I said, I don't want any. And it's the end of the event with Kiyosaki, and I'm leaving, and they open up my back door and they throw it in there. And I'm like, whatever. So I leave, I go home, and I put it in my garage. I don't touch it. Like 6 months goes by, and I love working with my hands. Like, I built this table, you know, and I loved working with wood. And my buddy came over, and he was talking about antioxidants and juices and all this stuff. And I'm like, I have this case of this juice stuff that everybody keeps talking about. You can have it if you want it. And he's like, really? What is it? And he opens it up and takes some. And I said, just take it all, bro. It's an MLM. I don't want anything to do with it. So he does. And like a month later, he's like, man, whatever's in that stuff makes me feel amazing. I cannot tell you what it's doing for my body. Where can I get more? And I said, well, you can call my friend who gave it to me. Here's the number. And I called on my phone. And so they called her and her husband, and he's going to sign up. And he's like, I'm going to sign up, but they keep saying you need to sign up first and enroll me. And I said, I'm not doing that. I'll tell you what. This is going to be my gift to you. You sign up with them, and if I ever decide to do it, you're going to make a lot of money. And he goes, Rick just said to sign me up, and then if he ever does it, I'll sign him up. So I said, go ahead. So he signs up, and then he signs me up. And again, like 4 months goes by, I don't do anything. And I see them at another event, and they said, just come down. There's one that's in LA. I was living in Palm Desert. I was doing large land projects in Palm Desert. And I thought, that's a 2.5 hour drive. I don't know if I want to do that, but okay, whatever. I'm curious. So I go, and I see all of these testimonials. And then I see this table, and it has all this like Robert Kiyosaki tools. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing this in MLM before. And I liked Kiyosaki. It had a huge impact on my life, and I liked cash flow. Anyway, I remember just leaving and just going, I'm going to be rich. Yeah. I'm going to be rich. Because I thought, I can teach financial education. I can love on people, which I love doing. And if it's working for them, then sky's the limit, you know? And so I did. And I was like a crazy person. And I built a very, very large business. Within the first year and a half, I was one of the top producers in the world. I was ranked number 63 in the world. And I did it joyfully. And I did it by teaching people and teaching them to leave the employee quadrant and step into the business quadrant, and what that looks like, and how to become more entrepreneurial. And I was able to teach them kingdom principles. And it was like, I had a knack for both of those things. Those were two of my great loves, God and business. And now I can teach other people to prosper. This is great. And so that became my lifestyle for 18 years, and just one of the top producers in the world almost the entire time.
For people that don't know how much you can make that industry, like what are we talking figures wise for a top producer?
Well, when you look at the top producers in the world, there are some that make up to $1 million a month
Jeez.
in that passive income or that residual income in that space. The direct selling space is a $400 billion a year industry globally. And so I didn't know any of that. And again, just for your audience, like I'm not in direct selling anymore.
Yeah.
But I can talk about what I learned in the process and why I was able to prosper in it. But I did things much differently than anyone that I saw. And it worked very well from my teams. Worked very well for the individuals that came to me, because I was very aware of people being coerced to come in and buy product, and then they would just bail on them. And they'd spend all of this money and they'd be left. And I didn't like that. And I didn't want to be a part of that because I loved people. I never like loved money and used people. Mm-hmm. I used money and loved people. And so for me, my approach was different. I kept thinking, how can I bring value to their life? How can I give them education? Like they come in with a dream and they want to make money in MLM, but what if they can leave with financial education? What if they can leave with being a better entrepreneur? What if they can leave with skill sets that help them to prosper? What if they could see biblical economics and they can see kingdom economics and they can see how they can provide for their family apart from buying products? The products were just like a transaction. What I'm offering them is so much better than that. Like I can teach them how to make more money outside of network marketing than inside. And I felt like I was being able to be true to my heart, because if I taught them poorly, I wouldn't make any money, and neither would they. But if I taught them richly, then they could prosper and I could prosper too.
What were you doing for that? How were you actually teaching them?
I was teaching them the difference between the cash flow quadrant. I read the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. It was one of the best books I had ever read by Robert Kiyosaki. It showed me where I lived, right? I was a small business owner my whole young life, and I had no system. I was the system, and I could not take a leave of absence or a vacation for longer than 2 weeks, because I would come back and I wouldn't have a business. And that is the pain point of a small business owner. And if you're an employee, then you just basically work for money and you're getting penalized heavily on taxes. That's the left side of the quadrant, which is considered the poor side of the quadrant. But what I learned is the right side of the quadrant, the B and the I quadrant, business quadrant and I quadrant, they leverage systems, teams, people, assets. They're building cash flowing assets. On the left, they have no assets. Small business owner, I was the asset. But if I wasn't working, there was no money coming in. That's not an asset. And so learning that, I started to teach them the difference between liabilities and assets, and how that worked, and how to migrate and get out of the employee quadrant and step more into the B quadrant and start learning about systems and leveraging systems and building teams. And when you're building teams in the big business quadrant, you want to teach them leadership skills, and you want to understand cash flow. You want to understand brand communication. You want to understand legal side of things. And if you were doing all of those right, cash flow was the most important part, but you needed the second most important part is mission. Do they all know the mission, right? So you want the cash flow, but you're not going to get it if the entire company, the entire team, the entire leadership does not know the mission. Well, you don't need to know a mission as an employee. Small business owners, they don't really pay attention to that. So I began to teach everything to them that had to do with these four quadrants, and how in the network marketing space, you could create cash flow and you could have what feels like a B quadrant business, because you're leveraging systems. It has a system of multiplication. You had a system of teaching leaderships and mentoring people, right? So if I teach you what I know and you multiply it, and those people know, learn from those people, you now, so the multiplier just grew exponentially, and you had a system that was not only teaching them, but a system that was sending out product. It was the closest thing, without coming up with any of your own money, that and stepping into the big business quadrant, that I could see out there. And the multiplier was phenomenal. But I did it through high level financial education. And that wasn't always accepted with other leaders, because my system was more complex. But I was teaching 3 nights a week for an hour online. So even though many times I was traveling in the beginning, I would teach them online and pouring into them. And they were getting highly educated in the area of business and learning about wealth. And because they were learning about wealth, even if they weren't making that much money or no money at all, the education that they were absorbing was well worth it. They couldn't pay for that kind of information. I probably invested $400,000 in my financial education, going to seminars and mentorship and all of that. I was giving it away to them for free. So they were becoming more effective entrepreneurs and people in their personal lives and their business lives. Many of them left the E quadrant and started small businesses, or they became better employees. Like, everybody was winning because the value. And it was a very unselfish way for me to teach, because I knew that I could teach them so well that they no longer needed me, and maybe they left my team and left network marketing. I knew that I gave them good service. It was a good profit, because even if they didn't make any money with me or a lot of money with me, their lives were better. They understand it. They could go out and make something of themselves. And I was in there somewhere. And I believed in kingdom entrepreneurship, and that is eternal. Just knowing that I could help somebody become more effective. I didn't have to make money off them. It was enough for me to know that I had something to do with their success and prosperity and eternal life. And so that's what motivated me. Well, many other leaders didn't like that, because they didn't teach their people the duplication like I did. And rightfully so. I could see where they would be upset, because their teams would hear that level of education, and many of them would want to join what we were doing, or come to my events, or come to our large hotel gatherings. And it created problems for them. And it created problems for me too, because it put dissension between us. But I wasn't trying to affect anyone but my team. And so I would pretty much segregate my team and keep us kind of on our own little island with our own kind of brand and our own flag, just because I was trying to insulate my team from affecting other teams and their leaders, because I understood the dynamic. I didn't want them to struggle with it. So in that process, over the course of 18 years, I realized that I can only teach the teams so much, and I can only improve people's lives as much as they would apply the principles that I was teaching them. But I also knew that in the network marketing space, the commission plans didn't always pay out the way people expected when they got involved. And there was nothing that I could do about it, right? The math is the math. And so, being a problem solver, I was constantly looking at, if I could ever build something better or solve the problem in the space, what would I do? And I never really thought much of it, because I never wanted to build something that large. Even though for some reason in my heart, I knew I was being called to build something global myself someday. But I did not think it would be in that space.
Can I ask a few questions on this? I want to paint people a picture of what you're doing. I think I understand it from the business level, but usually when people teach, if they're on the employee and the small business, you're talking not only as just like, look, if you're an employee, if you're not working, you're not getting the paycheck, and maybe you are, but you take you're pretty much a slave, right? You're taking 1 week of vacation, you don't have freedom, you got to clock in, clock out, like, and you pay the most taxes, which we won't dive too much into that, but like the government loves employees, right?
Yep.
When you have small business, you still pay a heavy amount of taxes. You really don't have systems. That's the reason why you ask small businesses, can you go on vacation and turn your phone off? And they say no. So they're also a slave, right? Why? Because like you said, you don't have systems. People make the mistake of thinking that, oh, you can go into the investor or the big business, but you have to have more money, right? And what I'm learning is it's not how much you make, it's how much you actually can carry and what you do with that money. Have you ever read the book, The Millionaire Next Door? Mm-hmm. Okay, so are all those people rich? No. It was people that were making very low. Now, there's different ways of doing it. Obviously, they talk about, the Dave Ramsey method where it's like save and then take that surplus. That's one way. But for me, it's what you do with the money. So if somebody is making $60,000 a year, knowing what you know, you would take that $60,000 and do something else differently with it. So I want you to unpack what you're teaching people, because I think some people think, oh, it's great, but you have to make a bunch of money for you to be wealthy. It doesn't matter. It's the principle and the margins are all the same. Yes, of course, you make more money, you can allocate more to investments and get there a little bit faster. But talk to me about what you're teaching these people about. It's not only it's not only about making money, but like what could we do with that money to multiply, like you're saying. So break that.
Well, first, the prerequisite was that this was, and I'm not trying to sell network marketing right now, but one of the advantages was this: in order to cross over from the E quadrant to the B quadrant, or the S quadrant to the B quadrant, to get from the left side of the quadrants to the right side, was that Forbes considers big business 500 employees or more. And those are the largest companies in the world live in the business quadrant. The trouble is there's a 90% failure, and you're investing $5 million a year for 5 straight years, and the stakes are high in many ways. You have, if you're building a business and it looks promising and you're advancing and growing, you have people that want to take you out. You have big businesses that are trying to bull you with their attorneys if they can't buy you. It's where the sharks live.
Industry changes. You look at Blockbuster, Netflix. So
yep. And if you don't stay innovative, you lose, right? Like Charles Koch said, innovation is critically important. And what innovation is, if you don't stay in that mindset, it's like building a foundation with the ground always crumbling beneath you. And so I taught, well, what I liked about network marketing is I could teach to get to in a very short period of time. Easily within 9 months, I could have more than 500 people on my team. And that's what qualifies as big business over here, is 500 employees or more. And mine's better because I don't have 500 employees. I have 500 CEOs running their own businesses, leveraging a system. And it did not cost me $25 million to get started. And so people saw that and they're like, wow, that's something that you'll teach me that. And so it was just a huge advantage. And it would only cost me $500 to $1,000 to get started, not $25 million, with such a high failure rate. And so,
and do you get that tax break too? Because you get a huge tax break with the 500.
Well, if you incorporate, you have everything you need. You know, incorporate, or if you have an LLC, if you have an entity, then you're golden, right? And so I taught people, once they got to a place where they were making a lot of money, definitely create an entity. Right? And then eventually get into trusts, and trusts are even better. So I'm teaching them how to build wealth through changing your mindset, not changing jobs, but changing quadrants. That's the key. People go from job to job to job, hoping for something better. So don't go from job to job, go from the left side to the right side. Right? And the left side is security driven. If you're an E quadrant person, your worst nightmare is to lose your job, right? If you're an S quadrant, your the worst nightmare is for a bad economy or for something to change. It's security driven. So, but on the right side of the quadrant, it's freedom driven. They're driven by the power of their dreams. Two completely different dynamics.
Because even on a bad economy, you have a different system for the bad economy, and you have a different system for a good economy. So you actually always win. That's why they say the rich get richer when a bad economy is happening. Interesting.
Yeah, and on the B side, they invest in leadership. And then everybody wants to get to the I side. That's the investor, right? It's on the right side, B and I quadrant. The investor side is even better because now you're leveraging other people's money. You're investing in cash flowing assets. Like you're not doing anything. And the best part is if you do it right, you pay 0% in taxes legally, right? So everybody wants to get to the investor quadrant, but they all think it's just too hard because they all believe the lie that it takes money to make money. That is so not true. It takes knowledge to make money. And I learned that firsthand because especially in the real estate industry, I bought lots and lots and lots of land and property with none of my own. When the deal is good enough, powerful enough, the easiest thing in the world is to get somebody else to pay for it.
One of my mentors told me that. He said the laziest thing you can do is use your own money in real estate.
Yep.
And you're like, well, why? It's like, because that's OPM, right? Other people's money. Because then you have to go and talk to somebody and convince them the deal is good, which means you have to underwrite it. You have to know the deal. You have to know all that. There's so many more people that have the money than the people that have the actual means to find the deal. And so if you just, the person that finds the deal, you get the money and you take a percentage of that, you control the real estate. So I think that's what you're talking about.
So it's not necessarily, what you own, it's what you control.
And sometimes no credit if you do it the right way. We're not gonna get too much into that, but like there's a...
we can take a whole bunny trail.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, I love that.
But in the beginning, like I used none of my own credit and I used no banks in my real estate under the mentorship that I received. And it was phenomenal. And I was like, man, why didn't people teach me this when I was a kid? And I realized how powerful a mentor can be. We need more mentors, and people need to open up their mind and let opportunity live and breathe, and let their dreams live and breathe on the inside of them. Instead of saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, right? And it's or property is not. And I remember as a teenager that all the things they said I couldn't do on some of the infomercials, I would spend $200 on an infomercial, and I would learn how to buy property, no money down. And people laughed at that. And the very first property that I purchased, man, the lease agreement that I had was something that I purchased from an infomercial. It cost me $138, and I had my first property with no money down, and everybody said I could never do it, and I did it. And I used the template lease agreement to make it happen. And so I was like, I don't know why people just constantly excommunicate themselves or remove themselves from opportunity instead of being inclusive. So yeah, so what? If you step into something that you believed worked out and it didn't, big deal. At least you learned something. So as I learned big business thinking, raising money and capital, it started to develop a new skill set, something I was not good at, making phone calls. I didn't want to make phone calls. And once I realized the power of those, I realized I could scale that. The more calls I make, and if I only got 2 yeses out of 100, then I'm just going to talk to 100 and go get 2. 4, right? So that was that. At least I knew what I was in for. I could do that. If I wanted 6, then I make 300 calls, right? Whatever it is. But it's usually 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. The better you get, it's 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, right? You get really good at that.
That mindset's so interesting because you reversed it. Some people are like, if you told somebody if they make 100 calls, they will make 2 deals, then they would make 100 calls. What happens is they give up after the 20th, 30th one because they feel so deflated, and they're just like, I just hate being told no. Yeah. So I love how you flip that, because it's like, if you just make these much calls, you're going to get, and be okay with only 2 of 100, just get to the 100.
Yeah.
And like you said, the more reps, you're going to be able to make it better with the principle.
So again, I'm not trying to sell direct selling because it's not an industry that I'm in right now, but I'm just pointing out some of the things that were rare advantages about the industry. And it's an industry that was very good to me. And I loved the industry and I love the people. It's just like any other industry. It's got sharks in it, and it has failures in it, and it has areas that are not so great, like any industry. But
and let me say this first. So we're going to get into Rick's new company. He started in network marketing, the MLM, and he was very successful. You're very humble, so I'm going to try to pump you up a little bit.
Yeah.
Made a lot of money, lots of millions, right? So a lot of money. The way that he's doing it, we're going to stay on that part for a little bit because I want my next question is about like how did you build those leaders? But then what he's saying is he's not in the industry anymore, not because it doesn't work, but because he found a different way that is actually going to be a lot more fruitful, not just for you, but more importantly for other people, which we're going to dive into. So we're just going to tease you guys real quick because it's not just, I think some people might be like, well, if he's not in it anymore,
why am I talking about it?
Comment that, Jeff, right? Some people. How were you able to teach people to start with mission?
I just showed them the B&I triangle, the business investment triangle that Robert Kiyosaki taught. And it's a triangle. It looks like a pyramid, but it's what the business investor quadrant looks like. It has nothing to do with network marketing.
Let's say that's a clip right there.
So at the very top of it, the tip of the pyramid, P for product. The product is least important when it comes to big business. I was shocked by that. Because you always put the product first, but you can have a phenomenal product and all the other things are in place and the business never grows.
Yeah.
As it gets wider down the triangle, it becomes more and more important. So the tip is the least important, right? The product. Second level is a little bit wider. It's second from the top, and it's called licensing. If you don't have the licensing correct, you could lose your business. People could steal your intellectual property. You need to have that stuff in place. The third, it's been a long time since I taught this, so let me see if it comes back to me. The third was systems, right? The biggest business in the world leverage systems, okay? Very important. You can't build a big business without a system. Right? That's what separates you from the small business ownership, because systems will run themselves. That's freedom. The one that's more important than that further down in the triangle is brand communication. Brand communication. How well is your team communicating the brand? So if you think about how well Ferrari is communicated their brand, you think, wow, jet set. I don't know if they use that word anymore. Like driving on the coast with the top down, like luxury, all of that. That's the imagery that you get. If you think like Toyota, you think economy, right? There's brand images that you create, but brand communication and messaging is extremely important. If you don't communicate the brand, then nobody knows about it.
And brand's not what also you communicate, it's what you don't communicate. It's why you don't see Rolex investing in their athletes that are like basketball. Or football. They do high level sports, which is interesting.
Yes.
So that's actually interesting because there's a guideline of what the brand of controlling it, because a brand is just, people think a brand's like a logo or colors or a thing. Somebody said this, it was a really, really awesome way of putting it. He said, if you asked me, Nike was starting a hotel, could you imagine what the hotel looks like? And the answer is yeah, we probably could. You could probably see like the wood and the Nike logo and force people and just do it. If Hyatt, the hotel company, created shoes, could you imagine what their shoes look like? You're like, no. It's like because one has a brand and one is just a company.
That's good.
That's interesting. So
within the messaging is brand communication. We know what the Nike swoosh equals because their messaging is so potent. Right? So brand communication is one of the top keys. The next one that's even more important than that is cash flow. It's all coming back to me now. Cash flow. If you don't have these things in place and the numbers don't lie, you won't be in business. If the cash flow is not coming in, you won't be in business too long. The next one at the very bottom of the triangle is the most important, and that is mission. That's mission. Everyone must know the mission. But on each side of the triangle is team, and on the left side, and on the right side is leadership. So you're building your team out of this approach to big business within the system, within brand communication. All your licensing is right. You have the product. Cash flow is good. Everyone knows the mission. The left side is you're establishing a team of key people that are being developed and becoming really good at what they do within the corporate setting. The other side is leadership. They invest in their team to grow as leaders. They teach them how to communicate the brand. They teach them how to manage people. They teach them the importance of leveraging a system. They invest in them. So when you have all of that, you have the whole entire big business approach. Because you now have stakeholders. There's a culture that's built within it. So I would build my network marketing teams by communicating the B&I triangle. What are we? We have a team. What do I teach? Leadership. How am I teaching leadership? I'm teaching them how to apply their business principles, financial education, and how the mechanics of building wealth through network marketing, compensation plans, and people skills actually work. I taught them how to stand up before a group of people and how to focus on what their heart wanted to say. And when they did that, all the people became invisible. Speakers that were petrified could now speak fluently with presence and strength, and they didn't see any of the people because they weren't paying attention to their message. They were speaking out of their heart. And all of a sudden, they became solid preachers, and now, solid teachers, right? And so they became a lot more effective. So when I taught the mechanics of how to build wealth, they were confident, they knew the mission, they knew cash flow, they knew how to talk to small business owners, they knew how to talk to employees, they knew how to communicate a dream and how important it was, how to cultivate the dream. And they knew how to walk people through the mechanics of hitting ranks and building wealth. They knew the whole process.
So they protect with the IP. That's
and then and then I would teach them how to apply for an LLC or a corporation.
Hold on real quick. Okay, so like I'm imagining this is so interesting because you're going pyramid structure, which pyramid doesn't get knocked over because the base is here. The first thing I see people do is actually invert the pyramid. So the first thing I think about is product, which is yours at the top. So you almost flip the pyramid and you go product. And then the next thing they think about is, okay, now we need to be able to have the cash flow for the product. We got to make the actual deal, right?
Yep.
We got to do it all.
Yep.
So what you're doing is actually the reverse, which is why your company stays standing when everybody else thinks product is first, price is everything. And then with the product, we have to create the branding. Then we have to do this. And then they don't wait until the very end then to figure out, okay, now what's our mission? Right, what's the whole thing? And then what happens? The pyramid's like this, and that's why it gets knocked over.
It's always short-lived.
So good.
Because how do you build vision with just knowing the product? If the product is the holy grail, you're missing all these other components that make it so interesting and beautifully challenging. And you're growing into it. Your capacity is growing because you have this ecosystem that's working together, and it would pull people into being mission-minded. It would pull people into being a stakeholder in my organization because they believed in the mission and they felt themselves growing and becoming better and more effective. And more importantly, they knew where they were now, but where they're learning to go tomorrow. So it was easy for them to attach their vision to it. So it was so effective that people rarely quit my team. The only times some of them would quit is when they were big leaders and they couldn't resist getting headhunted by other companies that wanted to pay them more. So I would teach them and train them just like a real estate broker would, and they teach them so well, and then they go somewhere else, right? And sometimes there's nothing that you can do about it because not everybody learns loyalty. But that's just part of the loss. Now, that's one of the things I never liked about the industry but it is fair, right? I mean, it's just the way business works. And so that happens in real estate And it happens in network marketing where you can teach a leader and they become very effective. They make a bunch of money, and sometimes they don't stay humble. As soon as they're making about 10 grand a week, they start believing that they're a lot more. They're starting to fight ego. They're starting to fight opinions. And then they have other companies that, other leaders that want them to go there, and they offer them really amazing deals, and they want to go there, and they take a bunch of people. And so that's really the part that's not so fun in the direct selling space, is people leave. But I want to say that it was just like that in real estate. If you're a broker and you have all these agents, I mean, you see that all the time. You invest in people, they become a great broker, they make a bunch of money, and then another broker offers them a bigger split, and then they leave, and you're like, man, I mentored them and taught them and did all that. That's business.
That's every business.
It's the ugliness of all business. But you got to, in any business, as you grow in leadership, one of the first things that you have to understand is you can't be just smart. You have to become tough. You have to have thicker skin. And the higher you go in leadership and the higher you go in big business and the stakes are higher, the thicker skin you have to have. You get to the point where almost nothing surprises you anymore and nothing bothers you anymore because you've seen it all. Your hands don't shake, right? You've seen it all. But doesn't mean that there's not a problem to be solved. And so when I decided that I was done in the industry, I decided that I wasn't going to allow a company owners dictate my success. And I would see, just like in any other industry, usually between year 5 and year 7, companies that do big numbers tend to have management problems and end up failing or closing their doors or selling to another company. I also couldn't control when a owner built a company and if they were profitable and then it became unprofitable, that they were just going to, their plan was just to do a money grab and sell it real quick so they can get a payout, and then everyone else was stuck with the fallout. And so I had done that 4 separate times, and I realized those things I have no control over. And the reason why I loved learning from Kiyosaki was that I liked predictable outcomes, and I realized what I thought was predictable in the direct selling space was unpredictable because I can't stop that. The only way I can do that is to be an owner, a business owner, a system-driven big business owner. And so I noticed that there were some products, very few, I can only really think of one product that suffered no product fatigue. In other words, it's really hot for about 18 months and then it's really not. And people go to something else, or they build a tolerance to it, or it's not interesting to them anymore. And that is the Achilles heel of all products pretty much in many, many spaces. But you feel it the most in the direct selling space. That's why they're always adding new products to keep it interesting. And some products cannibalize the others.
We talked about how you have to have thick skin in business, which is the segue into the new company you're starting. So for people that don't know, because it's a brand new company, I want you to talk about Stella Mar and how people that might not know what this whole thing is. So just give me an overview of like what the new company is, and then after that, what is the reason why you started this whole company in the first place?
I wanted to get back into traditional business, and I wanted to create a company in the big business quadrant traditionally. And I came across products that suffered no product fatigue, and one of them, this formula was so amazing, and it only focused on one pathway, the NRF2 ARE pathway. It's your antioxidant system that is millions of times more effective than any diet that you're on. So for instance, if you're consuming food through antioxidants, those free radicals are being neutralized or addressed on a 1-to-1 ratio. When your NRF2 antioxidant system is functioning, like really functioning, activated, it neutralizes 1,000,000 per second. And it affects all different areas of your body, including mitochondria, which is your energy. I remember you struggled with energy. Yeah. So I saw a company, a product like that over the course of 15 years still does 60 to 80 million a year now after 15 years. And in total, it's done over 3 billion in sales. And it just focused on one pathway. Well, I realized that my dear friend that I've known for 14 years was the formulator of that. All this time I knew him and we were very close. And I never stopped to really think about the brilliance that he had in formulating that product. I can't name the product for liability reasons. So I started to look into what was trending, and everybody was talking about stem cells, and they were talking about NAD, and they were talking, of course, about antioxidants and mitochondria and managing inflammation, having inflammation balance. And telomeres, right? Telomeres are the ends of your chromosomes that as they become brittle, they're like the end of your shoelace that becomes frayed. And as they become frayed and brittle, they break off. And the more they break, the faster you age. So the longer your telomeres are in your body, the less you age. The shorter, the faster you age. So telomeres were trending as well. And so I got with my friend and I was like, I've talked to a lot of experts in the telomere arena, the stem cell arena, not so much in antioxidants, but at that point, I'm like, I feel like I know everything about antioxidant because I moved thousands of products on that level and I knew it worked. Because long-term inflammation in the body is the reason why is rooted in all sickness and disease, right? Long-term inflammation, you want to control that. Inflammation is extremely important. You solve that problem, you have less of that. So holistically, you see companies that do really, really well, and everybody talks about how powerful and how important antioxidants were. So I wanted to create a product that addressed a 3-in-1 product: stem cell support, because stem cells are very, very important. I'll get back to that. Telomere support and antioxidant support. So stem cells are extremely important, and I'm just going to totally paraphrase it, and I could mess it up for those that are like brilliant in it. But you have 37 trillion cells in your body based on weight. Males usually have about 37 trillion. Women have less, maybe 34 trillion cells. 1 out of every 10,000 cells is a stem cell. And your stem cells are phenomenal. And one of the things that they do that are so important is they can become a heart cell, they can become a brain cell, they can become muscle tissue, they can become a liver cell, they can become anything that they want. And they find the injury and they flow through your bloodstream, some come out of your bone marrow, and they begin to gather around and fix and duplicate and become. The majority of the other cells in your body have an expiration date. They can only multiply or divide so many times, and then they stop. So when they stop, so like if your liver stops, your liver cells stop multiplying, there's an issue there. So your stem cells are highly important. And what happens over time is they become dormant. They don't expire, they don't die, they just go dormant. And so I wanted to have a product that supports that and keeps as many of those activated as possible. Because when you're doing that, and you are also supporting telomeres, and you're also supporting your NRF2 ARE, antioxidant response pathway, that's the motor, that's the master switch of your antioxidant pathway. And when you're doing all of those things at the same time, it has an efficiency on the body. So it's almost like if you look at a car, if you want your engine to run efficiently, you wouldn't just make sure it had your coolant filled and your transmission fluid and your motor oil were not. You want all three full at the same time. That's what happens when you're addressing those support systems. Well, so I developed this product called Stellamar Activator. And my plan was to just sell it to big businesses, not through MLM channels or any of that stuff. And I'd sell some through my website, but I wanted to do contractual business. But the product was so phenomenal and had so many beautiful results, but we realized that it was not only activating or supporting stem cells, telomeres, and NRF2, it was also supporting mitochondrial pathways and inflammation balance and NAD. And it ended up supporting 6 different pathways in one. So it was not a 3-in-1 product, it ended up being a 6-in-1 product. So imagine all 6, not all, but 6 systems in your body that have been broken down through age. After the age of 30, they start waning, and because of diet, because of air pollution, because of water, because of, you name it, toxins, these systems start breaking down. The older you get, the less they're working. And my product would upregulate the cells and get them functioning and upregulate the switches that control those pathways. And now your body had a very strong immune system and had the ability to thrive again. It's almost like going into a car that's 5 years old and replacing all of the sensors, and now everything's working again. So it had a profound effect. And so I knew that I had something that nobody had out there. And when I gave it to people, the results were phenomenal. And I can't go deep into that just because of liability issues. So I started doing contractual business with big companies that wanted to buy 10,000 bottles at a time, 20,000 bottles at a time, 5-year contracts. And I realized that all of them wanted an exclusive on it. And then I developed another product, and they wanted an exclusive on that. And then I was formulating a brain product, which would be first in its category, in the brain category. And it supported 6 different neurological pathways to the brain with no stimulants. And it created an entire new niche in the brain category. And so now I had 3 products, and everybody wanted an exclusive, and I realized my products were extremely valuable. And I wasn't just like peddling them to like people. I was going to big companies that did like 90 million a year, 400 million a year, publicly traded companies, billion-dollar companies, and it was all the same. And many of them were in different countries too. So it wasn't just locally, it was globally. There was a global interest on my products. And I realized I'm not giving anyone exclusive. I'm not going to pigeonhole myself. I think I'm going to rebuild my entire approach and build a big company. Because at first I just thought, well, just real easy. I'll just sell them. They just put up half of the money, and I'll formulate the product, and half when it ships out. Easy, right? Don't even need a system for that, and I'm not using any of my own money. Super, super fine. I could relax with that. But then I started to realize that I had something much bigger, and I could do global things. And I started to have leaders that were 7- and 8-figure earners that were like, would you mind putting together an affiliate program for us? Because we don't want to do MLM anymore, but we don't mind doing an affiliate. But we just don't want to do anything that has to do with multi-level marketing anymore. I'm like, well, I'll do something 3 levels, but I don't want to do that. And I don't want it to be known for that. And I don't want the messaging to be that. I have a traditional business, but it would be remiss for me with my background for almost, now 21 years, I have a network of people globally. Why wouldn't I communicate the brand through a network of people? So as many people as possible learn the name of Stellamar and how unique my products are, and really get it out there. And that can only just be one vertical. And so then I started to think, my products are clinical grade, they're third-party tested, they're made here in the United States. I I know a lot of physicians, and I've given my product to physicians, and they love it. And now they're buying 50 and 100 bottles at a time. Like, again, my product is being validated. And so I thought, why don't I create a vertical? It's the same type of vertical or approach that I would have as an owner. I would go after physicians and create a contract between us or an agreement between us, and they could buy from me, and they would look really good carrying my product, because it is a hero product, and it's highly complex and it's phenomenal. And so I could just create multiple agreements. And then I thought, what if I give that to my affiliates, but offer it as a traditional transaction? It's not multi-level at all. They can go out and be a broker and connect Stellamar to a physician, or Stellamar to a wellness clinic, or Stellamar to a small business owner that are buying anywhere from 25 bottles to 1,000 bottles at a time. If they have multiple clinics, and it's even more than that, and they can get a commission for the life of the relationship between Stellamar and them, just like an outside salesperson does for any company. Look at pharmaceutical businesses, pharmaceutical salespeople. And so I thought, I'm going to create a flat rate per bottle. So it's not part of any compensation plan at all. It's not multi-level at all. They connect, they get a certain amount of dollars per bottle for every bottle that's purchased through the life of the business relationship. And I realized that the percentage was really high. It ended up on the low side, it was like 14%.
So you get somebody connected to somebody that's doing 10,000 bottles, they get
not 10,000 on the lower level. That's a different vertical, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
But if they bought like 500 bottles, anywhere from 25 bottles to 500 bottles, they're going to get a certain portion of dollars per bottle.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah.
So I did the math, and it was just a flat rate. So they're getting a commission on every single bottle that's being purchased, and they're the only one that's getting paid. So they're a broker, right? They're brokering a deal, and it gives them the ability to learn how to communicate to physicians and other people, other business owners. And I pay them a commission for that. And if they go anywhere between 25 up to 500 bottles in sales, the commission the discount gets much greater for the physician, up to 50%, which is Keystone. And my brokers can get up to 33% commission.
Oh, it goes up?
It goes up. And so if you look at outside salespeople, pharmaceutical salespeople, whatever, their commission split is usually between 2 and 5%. And if they get more than that, they usually have to pay for their own expenses. But it's never any more than like 8%, unless they're an owner or or a 1099 person. But they have to absorb all their own costs. They don't absorb anything here. They're just connecting. They don't have to do anything else. We're the one that's surfacing them. They're not. So if you look at the commission, you're like, dude, this is amazing. This is a phenomenal opportunity for somebody just to be a connector. So then that was B2B, business to business. The next vertical is business to wholesale, or business to buyers. And a lot of my relationships in the direct selling space, they know a lot of people in key positions, a lot of big leaders that don't want to be a part of network marketing, but they have those networks that they can leverage that are working for a big company. Maybe it is a direct selling company. Maybe it's a Costco. Maybe it's a buyer in Asia that's like, I'm buying 10,000 bottles a month. They have those relationships, and that is business to wholesale or business to buyer. And so they connect, we service the account, and they get a commission off of every bottle for the life of that relationship too.
Yeah. Right.
But it's a different category of person, because not everybody knows people in big
right.
companies like that. But it's another opportunity because of my background, I know a lot of people that know a lot of people that can put deals like that together. And that would be the same kind of deal that I would have as an owner. So I'm literally giving people the same opportunity that I have. Then and they get a much deeper discount, right, when they're buying 10,000 bottles at a time. So everybody wins. The next vertical is business to influencer. There's a lot of influencers that have 100,000 people, 300,000 people, over 1 million people. And we can give them up to a 45% commission by moving our product and selling our product. That's a lot, right? And my broker has the ability to take that 50% margin and negotiate the deal any way they want. If the influencer can't move that much, and then maybe they get $20 per bottle that they sell, which would be 20%. Maybe it's 30%. So in that case, my broker, our brokers, can put 20% in their pocket, give them 30%. All I want is, Stellamar only wants 50%.
Oh, so you let them do the negotiations.
So now they're learning they're strengthening their negotiating skills, right? Based on the influence that the influencer has and how many bottles are actually selling in a 1 month period of time. Huge opportunity for both. Everybody wins, right? Everybody learns, everybody grows. Very fair for the influencer. And they have a product that they can be proud of that is timeless. So that was another vertical. Then I have a vertical that's just Stellamar to website, right? Direct to customer. And in that case, I don't want my brokers or the affiliates to feel like they're working against Stellamar. So what I do is I take all the profits of that and I put it in one big pool. And then I take a portion of that pool and I turn it into a bonus program for those that are doing the largest amount of sales. And we'll do trips, take them around the world on free trips. We'll pay them monthly bonuses, maybe lifestyle bonuses or what have you. And so now they're embracing it. They're not fighting it because it's going into their pocket. So now everybody is in the same culture. Stellamar is working with them, not against them. 4 verticals are traditional business. 3 of them are they get to be the place of the broker. And only 1 of them is the affiliate arm. So then that solved a huge problem in the industry, and direct sellers could never do that, right? As a distributor in network marketing, you could never go to a doctor's office and really effectively be able to give a doctor a 50% discount. You could never do it, right? Because it wouldn't work within the compensation plan because they're paying already so much. You're like, the doctor has to just want to build a multi-level marketing business in order for it to work. And that usually affects their customer base because their customers are like, every time I come in here, you're trying to convince me to get involved in your pyramid scheme, and I don't want to do that. And so their business is affected. Over here, my brokers can go and bring them in the business. They can have a huge discount. There is no compensation plan between it because it's a contractual agreement where they're getting the deepest discount, and the commission structure is a flat fee per bottle, that they're a flat commission per bottle, and so everybody wins. So I'm able to solve all of those problems, and direct selling companies can't do that because they have a compensation plan, right? So this was my way of getting out of the direct selling industry, providing traditional business for those that love to be outside sales, and also an opportunity for those that have a network of people. So they can have the best of all of those worlds. They can have their network. They can build, if they want to build teams, that's fine. And the rest, they can do traditional business and do very, very well because of the flat rate commission structure for business to business. So that was massive, right? That hybrid was just phenomenal in the market. There's nobody doing that. But there was one problem the biggest problem that I wanted to solve through my experience in the entire direct selling space, or in any industry, in the motion picture industry, in Hollywood, in all industries, you can basically say the top 2 to 3% are the ones that make all the money, and the 97% are the ones that make some money, a little money, some make a little bit on the lot, but most make hardly nothing at all. So you have 3% are the leaders that make all the money in any industry because they have management skills, social skills, maybe they're good looking, maybe they're funny, right? They invest in themselves, or a different breed. The 97% are just those that don't have those qualities, and they never quite make the money that they want to make. But the largest portion of that 97 don't make any money at all. And so in the direct selling space, usually you have that problem, that dilemma. And so I started to think, how can I take the 97% and create a system that would do the talking for them? It keeps them from getting in their own way. Maybe they're insecure, or maybe they don't know how to talk to somebody, or they can't communicate on a language of business that they would like to, whatever that reason is, or they don't believe that they can make the money that they dream about, whatever those personal holdups are. What if I can just provide a tool to where they're only a connector between Stellamar and that business, and that tool would do the talking for them? It would communicate to doctors, high level science. It would negotiate deals. It would understand the pain points that these other businesses go through. And all they do is make the connection, give them their link, and AI can do all the communicating for them. And I had spent 3 years learning it the best that I possibly could, and was blown away by the capabilities of leveraging a tool like that. And now the 97% in my company can completely hide behind AI, leverage that tool. It does all the things for them, and they can make more money possibly by leveraging a tool than they ever have made before, because they can't mess it up. And so I created an AI system that understands all the science, like the greatest formulator in the world, understands the pain points of those businesses, also has a governor on it, so they're never saying anything that will cause an FTC problem or an FDA problem. And so basically there's always an expert in the room. They can literally be on the phone and they can ask a question in one scenario, and they can answer the question right there. And then the system will go, you talked about money, can't do that, it's enticing. You said it cures a disease, can't do that, it's this. And then you click compliant rewrite. You just click the button, and it rewrites it exactly what it's done. And then you have another choice. You can make it more of your voice. So you can soften it. If you're talking to a doctor, that are dry, they're just give me the science, right? They're not very friendly at all. You can just send them that. But maybe you're talking to somebody that's more personal. You can click the button and it'll rewrite it in kind of your voice, more friendly. And then you click send. And so now it has the guardrails on anything that you could imagine, and it'll do that for you. And so I created 3 different AI portals. I have the AI chat. So when you go to my site and you go click on the product, it'll answer anything you need to know on the science for anyone who comes to it. Then I have a doctor portal that they can go in and get high level information that's so far over the head of everyone else. And it knows everything they need to know about running their business, bottom line, the benefits of selling a product like this and not having to wait for insurance to pay them is a huge, huge benefit. They could literally increase their bottom line by having a phenomenal product like Stellamar in there. And then I have the affiliate AI, which it'll teach them. It's a teacher. It'll teach them everything they need to know about the science. It'll teach them everything they know about B2B and how that pays. Everything about the business to wholesale and buyer.
Everything we talked about
influencer. Everything.
Interesting. So you fed all that into all the knowledge you got. Interesting. Wow.
And so it's solving the biggest problem in the entire industry. And it keeps people from getting in their own way.
Yeah, it's not about competence anymore. It's just about effort. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
In fact, as you know, in AI, it's so easy. I can change the language, so it'll speak Mandarin, it'll speak Farsi, it'll speak whatever the country that we need it to be, just by pressing a button.
Wow. Wow. No one's doing that.
No one's ever done it so far. I mean, when they see this, I imagine some people are going to try to do that. But if you don't, in my case, if you don't have a product like mine, then you're just average. Like I have a formula that I don't give to anyone, because within the formula, like you could take the ingredients in any of mine and go, okay, we're going to do the same thing. But if you don't know the ingredients that are within the ingredients, when it comes to cell signaling, you need to know exact milligrams of what causes something to open a gateway to open up and activate this pathway. That part will activate 2 other pathways. Like if you don't have that highly intelligent understanding for what opens up these pathways or activates these pathways, you could spend a lifetime trying to reverse engineer it. If you don't have the formula, you don't got it. That's why my product is timeless. And that's why that other product that I saw out there that just leveraged one pathway has never suffered any product fatigue, and nobody's ever in 15 years been able to duplicate what they were doing. And my formulator was the one that formulated all of that, and he helped me with all of these. And these are literally legacy products that don't just leverage one pathway. 6 pathways activator leverages. My platinum leverages 7, including AMPK, which is the master switch of your metabolism, and then 6 pathways of the brain product. So in closing, the Stellamar messaging that I am wanting to build as we stay in the cellular health category, but we become known for highly unique, complex products that are cutting edge that you can rely on, that will be timeless. I don't want average products. I don't want products that are everyone else has. One last thought is my products work brilliantly within peptides, and they work brilliantly with stem cell injections because they support it. Like if you did the research when it comes, because I know peptides are trending right now, and I'm not trying to communicate peptides because you're not allowed to really do that. But nevertheless, I wanted to see, is my product, does it compete with that or does it work with it? And in everything that I researched through my AI brain, it said, if peptides are the text message, the Stellamar science is the entire network that supports it in all of those different areas. Same thing with stem cell injections. So who would I focus on as well? I would focus on clinics that are offering injectable peptides. I would focus on clinics that are offering injectable stem cell clinics, right? Because my products will cooperate and support all of the systems that keep their products functioning longer.
Someone's watching this right now and they probably know you and they get excited about this whole business idea. How can they get in touch with you?
Well, they can go to stellamar.com. And the website is, I think it's pretty phenomenal, and it's not even finished yet. Yeah. Or they can email customer service at stellamar.com. Or they can just reach out to me on my Instagram page, Rick Gutman on Instagram, or Rick Gutman on my personal page on Facebook. And happy to connect them.
Let's see where this thing goes, man. I'm excited for you.
It's exciting and fearful at the same time.
Well, you know what? If it's not fearful, it's not big.
That's right.
Thank you, bro. So stellamar.com, and there's an affiliate link on there too. There's a little tab right there, all the contact. It's at Rick Gutman on Instagram. That's probably the best way to get a hold of you, probably right there.
Yeah.
And if you guys are interested, we'll put everything in the show notes, and that way it's all links and everything. So if you guys are interested, hit them up. And I'm excited to do another podcast with you to see where this thing goes.
Yeah, me too. It's exciting. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
See ya. We love you guys. We'll see you next episode.